We should be good now.
Alrighty, alrighty.
uh,
Well, I
we
guess
should be good.
I'll start over then.
Okay,
Uh,
it's going back to the stream now. Sorry about that. Okay, it's live on YouTube, live on Twitch. Okay, and it's also live on Instagram. All right, we're gonna let people roll back in. Sorry about
already,
that, guys.
you know, this is gonna be the one everyone talks about. This is gonna be the one.
And the good thing
This is the
about I'm
one that.
recording this well too, so that's gonna be great. How's it going,
Uh,
guys? Sorry about some tech difficulties. The sound in my headphones went out, so that would cause a problem. But we are here with Gregory, who graduated the YellowTail Tech Boot Camp, and today he's going to be sharing his journey, his experience, what made him choose YellowTail Tech, what's his experience working with YellowTail Tech, White Tech, and also what he was doing before he entered the tech industry. So can you give us a brief background on who Gregory is, what he was doing before this, and ultimately just give us a short snippet on your journey into Yellowtail Tech?
okay, well, again, my name is Gregory Gogan. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Uh, Again, this is not my first foray into tech. Back in about 2004, I went to ITT Tech in what was their considered to be their computer. It was actually a CNS when CNS was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but they turned it into a computer network systems program. Graduated, got a job, lot of help desk jobs. I basically could say, and then anybody in help desk knows that eventually there's sort of a ceiling that you hit. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
where am I going from here? Um, I guess like a lot of people who did go to Yellowtail, you sort of you put some search, things in your, Google search, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows about like, you know,
The
you know, you
rankings.
you looked at those headphones, you put in like, Logitech headphones, and next thing you know, all these ads for headphones just start
Mm-hmm.
appearing, when you're doing searches. And so one night I kind of ran into a video with Juby, and I don't know if a lot of people will remember this video, but for some reason, I think they said something about being able to get a laptop or something from them.
Uh huh.
And that wasn't really what interested me. It was the Linux. I've always been interested in it. It was something I was always kind of afraid of
Mm-hmm.
because of the command line. It wasn't, you think easy. You go to the desk, you go to Windows, and
Mm-hmm.
you got that, the icons, and you got your mouse clicker, and you got your keyboard, and you're like, this is easy. But then you think about Linux and its commands, and everywhere you go, you have to put a command here, a command there. And then, of course, I always associate Linux with hacking. And
A lot of people do.
I, I kind of made my admissions counselor laugh a little bit because I was always talking about hacking and getting into hacking after that. But no, I saw the video like a lot of people did, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
it really interested me, the program. So I took. I guess also what interested me is how it says that it helps people with no IT background. Now, of course, like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I had an IT background, but it interested me that they could, in 6 months, get you, some pretty good knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
I did I met with my admissions counselor at least a couple of times. I met
Mm-hmm.
with their, coordinators, and I joined. Uh, in there, there was two programs I could have done. I could have done a Linux for Jobs, or I could
Mm-hmm.
have done their cloud. And I just jumped straight into the Linux for Jobs. Maybe hindsight being 2020, knowing now that cloud is so prominent, maybe I would have done the other one. I was the other one because they both would have taught Linux. They both teach Linux basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I joined. I loved it. Uh, I'll tell you, the for anybody that's thinking about going to Yellowtail Tech, I've done a lot of boot camps before. I've done a lot of schools, and I'm telling you that Yellowtail is uh, head and shoulders above the rest, in my opinion, anyways. And with that, they give you an internship. So I did the internship, and after that, I got a job. But they like to take a lot of the people who went through the program, and if they
Mm-hmm.
show promise enough, they will offer them roles as TAs and maybe even eventual instructors
Mm-hmm.
at Yellowtail Tech.
So I have a question for you, because I know
Sure,
I actually have two questions for you. The
sure.
first question, how was the admissions experience? Like, how was that? Like, how informative was it? Like, what was the process of joining Linux for jobs? Like, can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure. The admission process was great because not only do they take their students to be TAs, but their
Mm-hmm.
students are also admissions counselors.
Oh.
So my admissions counselor was a former student of Yellowtail Tech, so he was able to explain, uh, the program in depth. He was able to, explain the process very well. I was very informed. I had all my questions answered about what I could expect.
Mm-hmm.
It was very seamless, basically. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah, no, that's nice as well too, because I know I've had my fair share of experiences with like onboarding towards I want to say more so boot camps, but like training, expedited training, things like that. Sometimes the onboarding experience isn't the best, so that's good
Oh
to
yeah.
hear.
Oh yeah. No, they have the formula. I don't know what it is, but they have a good formula, basically.
That's great. So I know you briefly talked about this a little. In hindsight, you said you would have chose cloud over Linux. What made you choose Linux over cloud? Especially saying how the cloud portion also covers the Linux piece as well too. I guess what was the thought process behind that?
honestly, honestly, I guess I just said, cloud, and I was just like, nah, just give me Linux. I know I don't think, or maybe I don't think they go in depth as much as like the Linux program does, because I
Hmm.
think they only teach like the basics. They
Ah,
don't
okay.
like. I
Getting
don't
familiar
think
with
it's
it.
geared toward getting you the RHCSA certification, which is what
Okay.
you can expect when you get out of the Linux program, as much as I think you get like some AWS cert um,
Hmm.
when you get out of the cloud for jobs program. I think that might have been just my overall thought, was that I wanted Linux. I wanted to learn Linux, and I know both of them taught it, but for me, I guess it was just get me
So
in that one.
okay, that's so currently right now. What are you doing right now as your full time job or for your job right now after leaving Yellowtail Tech?
I work as a Linux administrator at GE Aerospace in Lynn.
Oh, so what exactly do you have you do? I mean, what do they have you doing, as far as like
Uh,
project wise or?
Basically, just a lot of the things that administrator would do, building out servers, you know, containerizing, using Docker and Kubernetes, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, and frankly, I look at a lot of the Linux jobs now. A lot of it is like,
Yeah.
almost the same things you learn now, or like cloud, and
Yeah.
even like DevOps stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
really, what is even the difference anymore?
It's kind of it's baked in there, and that's what I was
It's
trying
all
to tell a
baked.
lot of people as well too. Like Linux is, it's the forefront. It's pretty much. what glues everything in the tech industry because everything's going to cloud, everything's going to head into microservices and Kubernetes. Being
Hmm.
able to manage that, like it's no longer managing like on-prem servers anymore. Now you probably managing EC2 instances. It's
Yep.
Linux, it's a server, but
Hmm.
it's now in the cloud, as say, which is basically just someone else's computer. So yeah, now I'm glad that you actually brought that up because I actually made a video talking about it. I'm like, "Hey, bro, learn if you want to start. If I knew what I knew now and about starting my entire career over, I would be learning Linux because Linux by itself is a job, and it's
Yep.
also like a basic fundamentals for other jobs. Like as a programmer, you're going to be dealing with the terminal. You're going to be having to
Hmm.
code in the terminal and deal with different building Kubernetes. As a security engineer, I'm probably using that to read logs or create scripts or some automation and bash scripts. You know, as a
Well, that
network
was like
engineer.
Kali Linux and
Yeah.
everything now too.
Yep. Like so,
But
it's
yeah,
like
like I've taken a
each
couple
one.
of DevOps programs, and the first thing they do, they don't really teach it. They say, okay, we got like these 6 videos on Linux. Watch these before we start the actual DevOps stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
so like I said, it's all like even in the internship, I learned Ansible, I learned, Docker and
I was actually going to
Kubernetes.
ask you that. How was your internship experience? Like, what did they have you touching? What do you have? What was you working on?
Uh, the real world tickets, basically, anything from simple storage, doing LVM storage, messing with repos, like configuring repos and
Hmm.
troubleshooting repos, or repositories, if you want to call that. Um, yeah, patching the servers using Ansible playbooks,
The fact that you're
writing.
using Ansible is crazy. I wouldn't expect that.
Right, yeah, writing Ansible playbooks
I I was not expecting
for
that at all. I thought maybe you would
yeah,
probably just be doing like small configuration changes and things like. But it seems like you guys actually like in the enterprise
Word
environment working.
WordPress, doing WordPress, doing of course using GitLab for version
Oh
control,
wow.
basically. Can Making not really making a website, but basically putting things from our GitHub repository into the uh, var www html file to
Yeah.
uh, create a website, and then editing that website. They say, oh, the phone number on the website is wrong. Use this other file to update that file.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot, some Ansible, some Python, even documentation, and they're always evolving the internship too, because now
Hmm.
they've actually added on call duties.
Oh wow.
Well, normally someone had a problem. Of course, the interns that were in there already could be like, "Oh, try this, try that." Well, now
Hmm.
they've actually said, you know, instead of just being available, I mean, instead of just answering the question, now be available for a certain period of time to say, "Okay, I have on call experience now."
Hmm.
I've had on call experience because, like I said, I've worked help desk. But I mean, for people who have no IT experience whatsoever, and now being able to say, "Hey, I was on call for,"
That's
you
big.
know,
No, that's
because
wow.
basically the internship is, when we actually go out into the outside world, we don't call it an internship. We put it on
Hmm.
our resume like it was actually a job that we did.
I mean, sounding what you're saying, based on what you're saying, that's basically a job as
Yeah.
an intern. You
Well, you
doing
got it. You
everything.
had about 80. You had about 80 tickets, and you had a short period of time to do it. And then, of course, 3 mock interviews
Hmm.
to prepare you for the real thing.
Hmm. So with the job that you have, was this more so, I guess, a connection that was made through Yellowtail Tech, or is more so, this is like you found the job, you applied to it, and just kind of went from there. Like, can you share like how you found the job and how that went?
Uh, I just put my resume out there on my LinkedIn.
Hmm.
My Facebook's my Facebook, my LinkedIn's my LinkedIn. So they're not, and so I put the job out, I put myself out on LinkedIn, and I'm not embarrassed, but I'm like a lot. I hear a lot of people struggling, or a lot of people saying, I can't find this, I can't find that. I had just people reaching out to me, recruiters, different recruiters said, "Oh, I found your resume." So,
Hmm.
Inside Global reached out to me and said, "Oh, we've got
Yeah.
this job we want you to be considered for," and interviewed. And I mean, I would hate to say it was a grueling interview, but it wasn't. I mean, people are going to be booing me. They're going to be mad at me, but literally, they weren't allowed to ask me any technical questions
Oh wow.
because my current boss told me that, oh, Inside Global handled that. So I literally was like, before the interview, they were like, "Oh, you're going to be dealing with this application, that application," and I
Mhm.
had not handled that application whatsoever. So I literally was watching YouTube videos all before that, and when the interview was just, "Oh, so we're going to be doing this project, and how do you feel about doing this project?" And I was like, "No, yeah, I think I could do this project." And half an hour, 45 minutes later, like, "Oh, they want to offer you the job." Okay.
No, that's what people don't realize about this industry, and that's why I always try to tell them, you're gonna always be learning, like in this position or in this industry, and
Oh,
kind of what you were just talking about. Like you said, it was an application you have never been working, or you never worked with or anything like that, and that is what I mean by when people say they have to train me for the job anyway. You gotta at least have like the fundamental basics of what the job requires. But if
mhm.
they have a custom application, they have a tool that they're using, it's easy to train someone to use that tool. That is what
Oh, yeah.
people mean when they say, "Hey, they will train you on the job." They're not going to teach you every how to do LS this or cat. They're not going to teach you the
Yeah.
basic fundamentals of cloud, Linux, security, anything
Mhm.
like that. Their
Yep.
idea of training is training you on the tools that they're using in that
To train you.
environment.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you brought
Exactly.
that up too, because I know like there's been so many times where I was probably working with a tool I had no clue what I was doing. I remember when I had first started consulting, and I was working as incident response type of guy, and
Mhm.
I had to come help build out like a Splunk architecture. Had never worked with Splunk before. I literally went to my hotel room, YouTube videos, documentation, and I pretty much
Yep.
came back the next day answering every question I need to answer because it was
Mhm.
like I had to. You got to quickly be able to adapt and learn new things in this industry. Like that's it's
Yep.
going to forever be learning. You're going to always learn. You're not going to always know everything, especially with how quickly things are evolving. As you guys hear him, he say as a Linux engineer, he's working with Kubernetes. He's working with Docker images. He's basically working with microservices, which is pretty much DevOps work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
basically DevOps work.
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
That's nice. And I had someone ask because I actually get asked this question a lot as well too. Within Yellowtail Tech, do you need a security clearance to work with Yellowtail Tech? Can you clear that
No.
up?
No. You do not need a security. If you have one, because like I said, I'm a TA now, and during the kickoff for our for our for the cohort that I'm with now, uh, the pretty much one of the founders, Juby, would ask a lot of the students if they had one, and he said, and if they said yes, of course, you would be like, okay, we can work with that, but you don't need. I don't have one.
There you go.
I don't have a security clearance. I know a lot of people that don't have a security clearance. It's not easy to get a security clearance. If you're lucky, uh, some job might take it, nice on you
Mhm.
and say, "Well, get you a security clearance," but it's not easy to get a security clearance. You do not need one to work with Yellowtail. There was someone that used to work with Yellowtail that was trying to start something where if you had, they would have you take the security plus, and then they would have you help you
Mhm.
get a security clearance if you wanted one, but you don't need one to start with Yellowtail Tech.
I'm glad you cleared that up. And there's another question that I had as well too. So, as far as the assessment, because Yellowtail Tech, they're extremely selective on who they allow to join their program because it's rigorous. They want to make sure people are actually going to be doing the work. Because most times when you see people that's trying to get into the tech industry and things like that, they think it's just going to be a quick rich, I mean, get get rich quick scheme. It's going to be super fast. They're going to do it in 30, 60, 90 days. Can you
Mhm.
talk about like the assessment that you had to do and just overall
Hon-
like how that portion of getting to Yellowtail Tech is and what do you think of it?
Honestly, I really don't remember the assessment I had to take when I went to Yellowtail Tech, and I have seen, like, someone said, research the person interviewing you, so I did go on one of your videos and saw that someone said they had, like, a 626 credit score or something like that, and
Uh huh.
Yellowtail denied them because of a low credit score. I know nothing about that. I mean, if
Okay.
it was let's just say if it was bad credit scores that didn't get you into Yellow Tech, then I must have slipped through the system. I'll just I'll just say that right now. I honestly I think it was just a regular assessment, maybe, like the regular ones you get for jobs and things
Yeah.
like that. Maybe, words that describe you or, something crazy like that.
Hmm.
It wasn't anything special, and I can't speak for what it is now
Uh
because I
huh.
know now they do like a 10-minute. I think they do like a 10-minute interview with you, and then that decides whether or not you go. Like there was more of an interview with me. Like I said, I think I met with my admissions counselor at least twice. I met with
Hmm.
their enrollment specialists, I think, like at least once or twice. So
Uh huh.
things might have changed, but and if there's a rigorous like process, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. So I have another question for you as well too, because for me, I'm not really a fan of school. I have a college degree, but I tell people all the time you don't need a degree to get into this industry. However, it somewhat can help depending on what school you go to. For you, kind of regards like it takes what 6 to 9 months to kind of complete the Yellowtail Tech program, correct? So, what
About
made you
that, yeah.
choose? What made you choose Yellowtail Tech instead of probably going to like a junior college to kind of grab a couple certificates there? Like, what made you do that instead?
Well, I mean, I've done different things myself, and I'm sort of in the mind frame of you in a way, like degrees and things like that. Like colleges never really were like I knew a guy who had a bachelor's degree and did
Mm-hmm.
nothing with it. Like when I was before I even went to ITT Tech, I worked at a college for a company. I worked in their mailroom, and the guy who was working the Pitney Bowes machine was doing like just stamps, and he was sorting mail. He had a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
His father was like a you know high finance guy. They lived in Wellesley. But he didn't care. He had a bachelor's degree and really did nothing with it. And I was, you know, basically running the post office window and
Mm-hmm.
working that same machine, and I had no degrees whatsoever. So even when I went to like ITT Tech and finally got my associate's degree, and like I said, at that point, I didn't really see the point of, I did, but I did actually go to like, I tried Southern New Hampshire University, and I
Mm-hmm.
tried. I think it's also like the not only the time commitment, but the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I was going at one point, my work was paying, like the tuition reimbursement and stuff like that. But then other money stuff came up, and I was just like, I can't do this and that and this and that. So I actually dropped out. And so then when Yellowtail, you know, when I saw Yellowtail, I was like, you know, let's give it a try.
That's nice. That is nice because I definitely know a lot of people. They kind of they battle with whether or not they should go back to school or should they do a boot camp or should they do self study. And for me personally, I definitely advocate for self study. But I understand it can be a bit hard for most people, especially when you don't really know what you should be learning. And the reason why I kind of sometimes advocate for self studying, in the grand scheme of things, Is more so it's like once you kind of get into the industry, you pretty much self studying anyways. Like you're
That's
already
true.
you have
That's
to
true.
learn new things, you have to learn new tools. But for people that have like absolutely no experience, I definitely do urge them like, hey, like you know, maybe you attend a school, a junior college, or boot camp. But if you do decide to go to a boot camp, make sure you do your research, see what other graduates, how's things going, what's the percentage rate of when they graduate and, whenever they get a job, how long it takes. Like, actually, like, do your due diligence when it come to things like this because, if you're going to spend a certain amount of money for any type of education, you want to make sure it's worth it and especially, like, they're doing what they say they're doing. Like, I know I've had so many different, like, boot camps probably approach me and say, hey, like, can you advertise for us? Can you, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
okay. I've seen you guys reviews. I've seen it. I just like, I'm not really into it right now. I'd rather just not do it. But when I initially had a conversation with Juby, definitely was like a very genuine guy when we had our conversation, talking about like the things that was doing, how they was handling it, and he was very direct, and we're like, hey, like, no, we don't want to, the miss, like, hey, you're going to get six figures in this job within this certain amount of time and things like that. And I really like that they don't push that you're going to get a six-figure job straight out there finishing this and things like that because the chances of you actually getting like a six-figure job directly out is slim. It's possible. It's definitely possible, but it's
And it's
slim.
been
It's
and
it
it's been
is
and it's been and it's been done. It's been
yeah,
done.
it's definitely been done.
I was close, but not for me, but for one of my cohort mates, she
Hmm.
definitely got a six-figure job right out of the internship.
Exactly, and this is what I love about that is it's like if you come in there not really expecting it and you get it, it's like, oh wow, it exceeds your expectations of
Mhm.
what they
Yep.
was going to deliver, and that's what I love for that too as well. Like under promise, over deliver. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
teach you the skill set. We're going to get you
Mhm.
this. We know for a fact we're going to be able to get you a job. We have
Yep.
what 80%, 75, 80% graduation rate of graduates getting jobs within like the
Mhm.
certain time period. So we have the stats and we have the numbers to do this. Now,
Yep.
if you're gonna get the six-figure offer, that's on you, your interviewing skills, and how well you are able to negotiate with the employer once you get your offer. So at that point,
Exactly.
it's kind of out of their hands once you
Mhm.
start interviewing and all that. At that point, it's like,
Let's just
did you
well,
take the
let's just
skill
say if
set?
they do well, they don't actually. They've like I said, they're improving every time. Now
Hmm.
they have a career coach, and he's pretty hands on. So
Hmm. Oh,
I
so
mean,
that's
they
even
just
better
don't.
now.
They don't just say, okay, you're done with the internship, go. I mean, they get you. They do resume. They do, of course, the three mock interviews. They do resume and LinkedIn review, and afterwards, now you're put into a program called Hunter, which allows you to keep track of any resume and applications you have filled out, and there's a way for you to like put it, the different jobs into different categories, like, oh, need to follow up. Okay, I put an application with them,
Oh
about
man.
a week ago. I haven't heard from them. Let me put this into, need to follow up status. And then he's very helpful. Like if you reach out to him and say, hey, I'm not getting any hits, he'll be like, hey, let's talk about it.
Oh no, that's great because I know from personal experience with how some people run some of their boot camps. It's like once they kind of teach you what they need to teach you, or whatever, it's just like they're AWOL. Like they've gotten paid, they taught you, and now it's just like okay, well we've done our job, we've done our responsibility. At this point, it's on you to get your job. So I really like that they're actually like genuinely trying to help you guys, even giving you guys resources to do all of that. Because I've never heard of a
They give the resources, and if you reach out to the person who's now the career coach and just say, hey, he'll say, okay, let's have a meeting, let's look at your resume, let's do this, let's do that. So
So did you have a LinkedIn
it's,
page beforehand, or it was kind of like one of the things they told you to do through the program, or did you already have one?
I'm sorry, what was it? What's the question?
A LinkedIn profile. Did you already have one before
Oh,
joining?
yeah, like I said,
Okay.
I was in IT, so I already had a LinkedIn profile. But
Okay.
that's another thing. They have little I wouldn't say seminars, but little events,
Hmm.
like creating a LinkedIn profile. They've had recruiters that you could, have meetings with recruiters that you could interview and ask them questions, and they talk about their experience and all that other things. So they really like focused on you know getting you know getting you help, you know,
Yeah, no, I
and
tell
helping you
people all the
out.
time about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my go-to. I've been using LinkedIn since I was like 19, and like every job offer I've ever gotten has been through LinkedIn. Like all of my internships, all of my jobs, and I don't think people really understand the power of LinkedIn, especially when you're working in the tech industry. Like I get so many different emails or DMs,
Oh
direct
yeah, yep,
messages, who are recruiters
hmm
reaching out. And
yep,
I tell people all the time, all you need to do is just like keep it updated, update your history, update your jobs, your skill set,
uh,
the bio. At
yeah,
least fill it
you
out.
well, yeah, you need to keep up with LinkedIn, and it doesn't hurt to like comment on people's posts
Yeah,
and like people's posts and make your own posts about
yeah,
different achievements and things like that.
yeah.
That's one of the most important things if you want to get a job, and LinkedIn is
Mm.
the place to do it, you know.
Yeah, that's what I say as well too. Another thing, another like tip and advice I'll be giving people as well too, especially when they're trying to make a transition. Whenever you're doing like different labs, or you're doing like exercises, or you're just doing self
Hmm.
teaching,
Yep.
write
Yep.
blogs. Like write blogs, like can like pretty much right now, like what you learned, what you expect you're trying to do, and actually put that on LinkedIn. Like recruiters love to see
Well,
that.
yeah,
Okay, like the labs.
or anything you're doing, like medium posts that
Yeah.
you might have of a project you did, or even a direct project that you did, and just put it out there on. And I've seen a lot of my cohort mates starting things like YouTube channels of
Hmm.
videos they've done, or um, different things, and they've even some yellowtail tech students I saw now started mapping out their journey like on LinkedIn.
Yep. And that's actually that's a different pathway as well too. Cause that's actually how I started with content creation. So I actually never really thought I was gonna be a content creator, but during my time when I was trying to get into the tech industry, which was years ago. I'm 27 now. I'm 27 now. I was like 19 at the time, and I was literally just documenting everything. Like, hey, I'm working on this new project right here. I'm writing this up. Like, I literally like I still have one of my blogs that semi went viral on LinkedIn when I first kind of started getting into cybersecurity and things like that.
Mhm.
I had built out a lab because like doing the news reports, the news was just saying like all these hacks and things like that are coming from China and all that. So I basically kind of built like a botnet in the security operations center in my house, and in my house, and I basically had this web server where I would have like port 22 open, port 80. Like I have certain ports open, but
Okay.
even with the port 22 with SSH, you have to
Yep.
have like a private key you couldn't access
Yep.
to do like actual
Hmm.
username, password. And
Yep.
then I had like I built out a dashboard to see like where the geolocations for like all the hacks or wherever people was trying to get entry into it, and it come out. It was actually China. So so it
It's
was nice. Like I have a curious mindset. Like whenever someone typically says someone in the news, I'm like, let me verify this. And I actually, I verified, I saw it, and I was like, oh, and that went like very like viral, and people started contacting me like, hey,
all right.
I really love you. And this was I was in college, so it was like, oh, like you're having internships or any jobs and like that. So it was like people was really reaching out to me in regards to that. So that's why I tell people like, there's no such thing as a too small of a project to post about, because
That's
all it's
true.
going to do is just eventually.
It's gonna, yeah.
Yep, it's gonna stack on top of each other, and it's
Hmm.
you really get to see like your advancement and your improvement of your skill set. Because then you're gonna be looking at something like, wow, that was so easy. Like
Yeah.
I really, it was so easy, but now it's like, oh wow, I came a long way.
Uh-huh. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, that is nice. So I guess in return, in regards, what certifications do you guys get once you complete Linux for Jobs, or I guess what certifications does it prepare you for?
For Linux for Jobs, you are getting the RHCSA, the Red Hat Certified System Administrator certificate.
Okay, for the people that don't know what the Red Hat certified system is, can you just give like a brief overview of what that certification is?
It's basically their I guess you can say their system administrator certification.
Okay.
I guess that's really all I can, I guess I can. That's yeah. So you're learning, different things that you would basically do as a Linux system administrator, on a Linux system.
And that certification that's hands on, right? That's not an
That's hands
actual.
on. That's hands
Okay,
on.
and
I
that's what I
have
love.
my I have a we have one user who works for Red Hat. One instructor, I should say, that works for Red Hat, and that's what he was saying the other day was that AWS is behind Red Hat because basically theirs are all multiple choice questions where all
Yeah,
of Red Hats are all hands-on
configurations.
things, configurations.
Yeah.
You're basically working with two VMs and you're doing one task on a bunch of tasks on one VM, and you're doing uh, another set of tasks on the other VM,
Mm.
and you got 3 hours, um, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, no, I took oh, a question. Is that also included in the
That
tuition for
is not
YellowTail?
that is
Is
not
that included?
included,
Okay.
but you can always sort of run into someone that has a code,
Voucher.
like a
Okay.
voucher that will get you like 15 to 20 off. And if you are the MVP, you almost get that amount of money as the MVP of the cohort.
So, oh, can you talk about that? Because that's something I didn't know about. What is the MVP?
That is the basically it's voted on by your cohort. It's whoever the whole cohort thinks is the person who was sort of like, you know,
The Rockstar.
they weren't really this, they I guess you could say they what they did. Like for me, I was my class's MVP, but for me that meant like I said, since the course is always evolving, they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have like now they have like a Thursday support session, they have a Saturday weekend review session, they had a
Mm-hmm.
Sunday weekend review session, but when I did it, they had the Saturday and Sunday weeks review sessions, but it was one instructor for a bunch of people. So what they did
Mm-hmm.
was is they said, okay, you know, this cohort gets an hour here, this cohort gets an hour there. So
Mm-hmm.
we would get an hour. I would take that other hour, and I would take everybody into my own Zoom, you know,
Mm-hmm.
room, and we would just study, or if I found a tip or trick that, worked for me, like we were downloading, we use VirtualBox when you first begin. So we were
Mm-hmm.
downloading ISOs into VirtualBox. Well, the eventually the ISO that we got had multiple options. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted just a minimal install, but there were
Yeah.
GUI options when you first turned it on, and you could, okay, I'm going to do GUI, but I'll just use the terminal. No, I found a way you could switch to minimal, and then I took a screenshot and said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, guys, you guys are all downloading the GUI version, but here's the minimal install, the
Uh-huh.
option that you could pick instead. Or like I said, the Zoom rooms that I opened up for people, and
Mm-hmm.
answering questions and supporting my classmates. And there was two of us that it came down to. I voted for him, he voted for me, but in the
Mm-hmm.
end it was me. And like I said, it's just the person who sort of is above and beyond, I guess, the rest. Like everybody's, great, but there's like one person that everyone in the cohort thinks, sort of,
Mm-hmm.
and they give you like, for me,
No.
it was like, I think it was like 400, but
Oh.
I think they maybe even raised it now for, future cohorts.
I'm actually, and that's one thing you brought up a good point, like how you was kind of talking about, like how you naturally you was curious enough to go look for different minimal installs, look for different ways to do something differently, and this is what I tell people when they are doing labs. Like, okay, yeah, it's fine to like read the direction and follow the directions in certain labs, but ultimately you just following directions. You're not really learning anything in
Hmm.
regards to that. You got to kind of try to break things and understand, like, okay, I did this. Why did this happen? Like, and I
Yeah.
think that's what people, when they come to labs, they say, well, I'm doing all these labs, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm not really learning anything. It's like, because you're following directions, like, letter by letter. You have to kind of
Yeah.
venture away from those directions and
Yep.
understand why that works. I know for me, working with like VPCs or even just like Kubernetes and things like that, like me deliberately breaking things or doing something outside of what those directions say, so I can kind of understand it. I'm like, why did it like? Why did this happen this way? That's why.
I
So
did
I
this.
naturally say you have to have like a curious mindset
Hmm.
whenever you're trying to like initially try to get into the industry, because you got to know how things work, especially in security. I work in cybersecurity, so I have to know how like multiple different things work. Like I have to know like cloud security. I have to know somewhat bit of coding. I have to know networking. I have to
Hmm.
know like a little bit of DevOps and data
Yep.
engineering. I have to understand how all of that stuff works, because
Yep.
how can I protect something if I don't understand
If
how it
you don't
works?
understand how it works, you're right.
And so with that, like even with like, just kind of understanding how port 22 or SSH work, like okay, like
Hmm.
why is it that, why shouldn't I use passwords or username and password? Why should I use like RSA keys or,
Yeah.
SSH keys instead
Hmm.
to get in there?
Yep.
And then it's like, well, I can brute force,
Yep. Yep. That's
SSH,
right.
and
Yep.
if it's not, timed out, it's going to kick me out. I can keep doing this on and on and on again, and nothing's
Hmm.
going to stop me. So
Yep.
it's like understanding why it's asking you to do that, not just like, okay, let me go ahead and
Not
just follow these
just
directions.
following some direction. You can
Yeah.
actually do more than that, you know,
It,
playing around with it more after that.
exactly. And
Yep.
especially nowadays, like, and that's why I take like thing it's so easier now to like learn these things. Like if you actually like kind of go out and try to learn it, because you got like AWS. Like AWS by itself, it gives you like a year free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can go to like an
Yep.
EC2 instance and it's say, like some people I know building out virtual machines can be complicated for some people, with using Amazon or AWS or GCP. Well, I prefer AWS, but using AWS, you can literally go
I
deploy
prefer
everything.
AWS too.
Yeah, you can deploy everything using
Yep.
like Terraform, like infrastructure as
Hmm.
code, which is basically like a set
Yep.
instruction that builds like all the infrastructure, and
Yep.
you can literally get an entire enterprise lab environment in your room, in your house for free.
Hmm.
Because back then you had to buy like the Cisco equipment, you had to go buy the
Yep.
routers, you had to go buy all
Yep.
of that stuff. You don't have to buy that now. You just go,
Nope.
mess with
It's
VPCs.
all on AWS. Yes.
It's all the,
Yep.
and it's extremely cheap, especially if you're someone that's just like in your house, you want to learn new things. Like
Yep.
I always try to tell people, hey, set up a web server, set up one EC2 instance where it's like a SIM, like you're using
Yep.
either
Oh
your
yeah.
Splunk server or
Yep.
your Elasticsearch, whatever type of server you want to have to collect the logs. You have all
Yep.
the logs going to an S3 bucket, forward it over to the Splunk server. Now you can go through the logs, understand how to read logs, look for
Read the
different
logs.
things.
Yep.
Whenever
Hmm.
you're doing certain things, like say for instance, if you're scanning, like if you do an nmap scan on a web server, understanding like how those packages being sent to that server interacts in the logs. Like it's
Yep.
it's a lot of different things that you can do with that, and even just kind of building out like Kubernetes, because Kubernetes
Oh yeah.
is kind of hard.
It,
Ku-
uh,
Kubernetes is kind of hard.
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
uh, so how I guess how did you guys ever cover like any Kubernetes or anything like that in the YellowTail?
Not
No.
Kubernetes. We did. I now again for cloud. I think I might have heard that they might be covering that now.
Mm.
But for us, we were not Docker. We used Podman.
Okay.
Red Hat comes with does Podman or
Mm. Kind of
and
makes sense on
in
what you
the end,
guys use Ansible.
a lot of the commands are the same. So instead of Docker pull, it's like Podman pull.
Hmm.
Podman is so.
Same concept, just a different
Same
application.
concept, just a different application. Just swap out one word for another.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people realize as well too. Like a lot of these tools, like in the tech industry as well, they're the same thing. Like is at the core, the functionality is the same. You just
Yep,
have to change up either the language that you're using, the context of how it's applied, but essentially at the core, it's the same thing. Like
it's the
Ansible,
same.
yeah, Ansible and Terraform, pretty much kind of the same thing. Like
Yep,
building out
yep,
infrastructure as code.
yep.
like
That's it.
GitLab, GitHub,
Use
using
that.
Git, all of that.
Yep.
Oh,
Absolutely correct.
someone said they're currently learning there. Um, so I like someone had a great question for you, and I want to see if you're gonna give them an answer for it. They're like, "Do you have any study tips?"
Study tips. Study tips. Just, I mean, you got to just do it. You know, uh, it's not. You know, it. You walk away from Linux for even a day. I'm not. I should say a
Hmm.
week. You're done. It's like riding a bicycle. You turn around and you're like, I can ride a bicycle. How did I do that? That's the same with Linux. Like you just do it. You just sit on the command line and do the commands. And like you said, break things. Like put in a command and not know what it's going to do, or you know, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's
uh,
that's how I'm about studying as well too. I feel like studying it it's a cliche to me because I feel like at the end of the day, especially like in this industry, it's more so like you just have to do it.
that's it. Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, you're right. It's not even really like studying. It's just like
Yeah, it's just
doing it. Like
do
the
it.
get to read the concepts and get together with your fellow classmates, or get together with people that
Hmm.
talk the talk basically,
Yeah, 'cause
because
that's
they're going to come up with a different way of doing something that you're like, that's going to work for me. What I was doing wasn't working, but what they're doing, yeah, that's going to work. And yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, cause I know you have like in theory, practical, and things like that. It's like, well, you can read, and that's when it comes to certifications. That's why I'm not really a big fan of like just getting certain certifications, because anyone can study and memorize answers. Like once
that's
you can
it.
actually put your hand on the keyboard and actually do
Hmm.
it,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, you understand it at that
Yep.
point.
Yeah.
I
Oh
always
yeah.
try to tell people, if you can explain a concept to someone as if like they had no experience, you can
No
break it down to make
experience.
them understand it, you also understand it. Like I
Oh
tell
yeah.
people this all the
That's what
time.
that's what I've heard too, is that if you can explain things like down to the minute point, and that
Hmm.
person who like knows nothing would be like, "Okay, I get that." Then yeah, you can say that you're an expert in that, or that know what you're talking about.
And that's funny, because I know whenever people ask me, they're like, "Hey, like I have my security plus, I have this certification, I can't really find a job, or I can't do." I'm like, do you like fully understand like the information that you've consumed, even though you have passed the
Yeah.
certification? Do you actually? Because
Yeah.
I like this is how you know if you can truly understand it.
Hmm.
Find a complex protocol, or
Yep.
not even a complex one. Like go in, break down what is HTTP to HTTPS to your grandma or your mom.
Yeah.
if you
Yep.
can if you can break something down like that to where they understand it, or like even there's certain concepts, if you can break it down to someone that has no experience with this, it's like, okay, you understand it.
You
If you're
understand it.
probably not getting any callbacks or anything in regards to that, it's probably your resume. So
Hmm.
I like it's either if you're not getting callbacks, it's your resume. If you're getting callbacks and you're not just getting a job, then it's probably your interviewing skills or like
Yep.
just your fundamental knowledge. So if you're
Yep.
not getting any calls back, you need to revamp your resume outright.
Yep.
That's what needs to be
Exactly.
taking place.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone just say anyone can get test stumps too, but not apply the knowledge exactly. And I
Yeah.
see that
Oh
all the
yeah.
time.
Yep. Yep.
I've seen that all the time in my career where people would get a hold of these dumps and then just pass certification after
And then
certification after
just
certification. It's just like, okay, you have all these certifications, and a lot of the certifications are not even relevant like to each other. It's like on two completely different spectrums, and it's just like,
yes.
how does
Yes.
this even kind of tie into like the experience that you're trying to get with this job? So
Hmm.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
different things.
Like at this point, when I even think about people going back to school, or even me going back to school, and they're like, "Oh, we'll get you your A plus," and I'm like, at this point, I don't think I need A. I don't think I need A plus. Like A plus is
Yeah, no,
like
I
basic, basic, basic. Like
yeah, no, I hate that too, because like people come to me all the time and they say, "Hey, like I'm gonna get my A plus, my net plus, security plus." I'm like, well, let me stop you there. Like, don't get me wrong. If you want to learn the information from the A plus, learn it. What I take
yeah,
spend the because I think it's like $600 to take it because it's like two parts.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm just like, if you want to spend $600 for a certification like that, go ahead. I wouldn't personally do it, but
Mm.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, no.
Exactly.
So I definitely tell people, don't waste your time with A plus.
Hmm.
It's not it's not worth it. And this coming from someone that was in help desk, guys. He was in help desk for a couple of years, and he shares the same sentiment. Well, I guess that's run. We're kind of getting the time. Do you have like any final words of just about any advice or anything about YellowTail Tech, anything about yourself, or just overall advice that people can probably use to, and like to kind of make a transition into the industry?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're not in the industry, I would consider Yellowtail Tech. I only say that because, I also am a TA there, so I guess I am a little biased. But even if you don't do Yellowtail Tech, I think Tayon said it best. Do your research. Just don't. I actually was talking to one of my students, I guess you can say, in the cohort that I'm TA for, and when he went to Yellowtail Tech, he said he watched all the videos that they provided with all the testimonials. He went on and he looked at all the reviews. He looked at all he said he did research, research, research. So yeah, do your research, but you know, find what you think might work for you and get into tech. I believe, but Yellowtail Tech, just the teachers, a lot of the instructors are now. I mean, a lot of the students are now. Some of the students are now instructors now. It's like a close knit family. I really say that honestly. That like all the students, all the faculty, all the it just feels like one big family. So if you want to try that, Yellowtail Tech is a place to go. But if not, like you said, just do your research. There's a lot of place in tech for everybody, and you know, good luck. That's it, I guess.
All right, guys, you guys heard it here from Gregory. Do your research. Make sure you do your diligence before you just go shove out money for anything in life, for any
Yeah,
type of education, not just to this specific moment right here, but that's for anything. But I'm gonna let you go, and it was great talking with you.
yeah. Thank you very much.
I,
Uh,